Welcome back, Patriots, to another episode of the Bald Brad Show. We are having a minor technical difficulty, but we will make sure we work through it live with all you fellow Patriots. Hopefully you're having a nice, what the heck day is it? Tuesday morning here. Let's make sure we get this on record, folks. Joe Biden is still by far, not even close, the worst American president to ever hold office. Hope all of you are doing well. We're trying to work through a quick glitch here. Let's just pop this in really quick. Let's head over to the chat a little bit. Let's see what the Patriots are doing here. We got Pat in there, as always. Pat's always taking care of us. Make sure this is muted for all of you. There we go. We got Snarf in here. Karen, secret agent. Miriam's always there. Devil, Sharon. Danielle, we got a lot of people. Yesterday was a big day. It was the first day of the RNC. Hell, we learned a lot. A little boring at the beginning, but you guys made up for it by being awesome in the chat and having a good damn time. A lot of stuff to cover today, folks. The media narrative. Donald Trump picks J.D. Vance as vice president. I was super bummed out. I'm sure all of you saw. I really wanted Vivek. But still, Vivek could be press secretary. Who could be Secretary of State, which is a phenomenal pick if that would be the case. The reason why I say that is because usually Secretary of States don't sit there and run for president, whereas, Secretary of State run for president. White House press secretaries tend to not run as president. So that's why I think it'd be a good pick for him. J.D. Vance, I don't know. I don't know much about him. I'll have to buy his book. A lot of you seem to like him. A lot of other Republicans seem to like him. Everybody's saying it's a strong pick. It's a phenomenal pick. He's the guy, yada, yada, yada. So we're going to break down a few headlines for you. And the first one is here. Good old Joey can't think of one thing Donald Trump would do well, which makes sense because Joe Biden's brain isn't working. So Joe Biden could not think of a single thing that former President Donald Trump would do well, even when put on the spot during a recent interview. So he was on there with 360 with Speedy. Biden lectured Americans on Sunday about bringing down the temperature on the nation's political rhetoric after a gunman opened fire in Pennsylvania at the Trump rally. Quote, I asked this question in an effort to show the younger generation that we have to coexist. So in the event that former President Trump wins this election, what is something that you feel he will do well? Quote, I'm not being, is that like fictitious? Like fashion? Fictitious? Facetious? Sorry. I can't think of a single thing, Biden replied. I'm serious. Think. I can't do this to this guy in the way he talks. Hold on, let me get into my Biden. Real quick. It's really early. I'm not being facetious. I can't think of a single thing. No, I'm serious. Think of the thing. Wait, look. What his objective is, it's totally anti-democratic. Dude, that's a real quote. Oh my God. Think. Oh, I'm so thankful for that because I'm still not fully awake yet. He says that he wants to be a dictator on day one. He means it. He says he will not recognize the outcome of the next election. He means it. He made up I beat him by 7 million votes, and he went to, I think, of 20 appeals to the court all the way to the Supreme Court. Not one court said there was a single scintilla of evidence that he had. And what did he do then? January 6th, and he encouraged, this is the guy that's supposed to turn down the rhetoric that we just heard from yesterday's White House press briefing. And he's bringing up January 6th, talking about how people were killed. You know, he's going to be a dictator. So, I mean, nothing's going to change with Joe Biden. I mean, we knew nothing was going to change. Karine Jean-Pierre wouldn't answer the question yesterday that we saw. And don't worry, we'll get to yesterday's White House press briefing. We're not going to play the whole thing, but we definitely have a few clips here or there. We actually have a lot of clips from yesterday's White House press briefing. So we'll make sure that we get to all of those for you in just one moment. Let me cue up the next one. Furthermore, with the rhetoric, Joy Reid frets that Donald Trump getting shot would let him rewrite himself as both a hero and a victim. I mean, he is, quite honestly, both of those things. The guy was shot. Yes, he's a victim. He was shot in the head. These people are not with us. Joy Reid, who we know is just, she's way out there, said on Monday that she has a very real concern about the aftermath of Saturday's attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, namely the media, would basically write himself as a sympathetic victim. Probably, yeah. I think I would too, because again, he's an actual victim. He's been shot in the head, Joy. I know you can't wrap your head around it, but that is what happened, and he is a hero at the end of the day. Damn right, he's one of the best heroes, Joy. One of the best heroes. So here's yesterday's White House press briefing, where Biden called, this is the question, Biden called President Trump a threat to this nation just last week in Michigan. Is he going to stop the rhetoric? And she just goes, no. Okay.
Just last week in Michigan, President Biden called Trump a threat to this nation. Should we expect that he will not be calling out Trump with that kind of rhetoric going forward?
So what I will say is that it is important, right? We believe it's important to continue to forcefully speak against any type of political violence. That is what the president believes. And we do not want to politicize this moment. Politicizing this moment is unacceptable. We believe, and the president believes, you heard from him in a very clear.
Oh, it's glitching out on us. We're experiencing the glitches. 1 second, folks.
Is unacceptable. We believe, and the president believes, you heard from him in a very clear statement last night about the importance of uniting this country, the importance of continuing to do so, and that we cannot tear America apart to score political points. We cannot do that. And so we don't want to politicize this moment. We want to unite. We want to continue to focus on that, and that's what the president's going to focus on right now.
His message on that just last week in Michigan.
Folks, now, if you weren't with us during yesterday's White House press briefing, that was the rhetoric. That was the talking point when they were asked, hey, you know what? As we said live when we watched the president address the nation in the Oval Office, where he said, we need to bring down the rhetoric. We need to bring down the tone. And I said, why don't you start with yourself? You're the one that's calling not just Trump, but all of us a threat to democracy. You're calling all of us a terror risk in our own country. We're like second-class citizens to you. You say that he's a dictator. You call him Hitler every single week. You call him a fascist, a racist, all these other things. And so obviously there's going to be people out there that don't know you're an idiot, Joe, and just believe everything you're going to say. And then they go and commit stupid things because of the very things you say. Now, I'm not saying that, Joe is exactly the reason why that individual went out and did those things, because I could say a lot of things and somebody that watches my show can go out and do something stupid and then I would be to blame for it. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's necessarily the right thing in terms of pointing the blame at somebody just for their words. Somebody has to take those words and act upon it. And I haven't seen anything that said other Joe blatantly going, hey, go kill Donald Trump. That's not, I haven't seen Joe do that. I understand you guys want to point to the bullseye thing, but I can understand how somebody could read something and get to some sort of logic of doing some heinous crime against Donald Trump based on Joe Biden's rhetoric and Democrat Party. But that was what she was saying. She wouldn't answer the question. She was saying, we'll just sit there and call out the violence. We don't like violence. Violence bad. It's like, yeah, no duh, lady. But you weren't willing to call it out probably your first year in office when you guys were running all three branches of government. Specifically the Brett Kavanaugh thing. And also specifically the fact that there's people out going after the judges of the Supreme Court. Y'all remember that one when they're outside their houses. She wouldn't sit there and condemn the violence and all these other things. And so what was funny was she goes, well, we don't want to politicize it, right? You heard it from the horse's mouth right there. But then she was asked the question later on about this whole idea of gun control. And I called it in real time. Did we not call it in real time? I go, she's about to politicize this whole thing, but don't do it, Kareem, because you just got done saying you don't want to politicize the event. But yet you're going to politicize the event to go after guns. It drives me up a wall. So she says, we're just going to continue calling President Trump a threat to democracy.
The view is that Trump
Basically.
and the MAGA Republican agenda is a threat to democracy. So how do you get that message across while bringing the temperature down? How is that phrasing going to be replaced? Is it going to be replaced?
Well, look, what I can say is this. we have our differences, and it's okay to have our differences. And it is okay to speak to someone's record, to speak to someone's character. That is the difference of, that is important to be able to do, to show, right, what the American people, what you're all about. We're just going to continue to denounce violence. It is important to do that, forcefully be against violence. Political violence has no place in America. It should not be. It does not have a place here. The president's going to continue to be very, very forceful about that. But we have a difference of agenda. That is.
Oh, we have our big differences. That's for damn sure. Donald Trump wants to make this country great again, and you want to destroy it. And as you saw in the title, you might be wondering, you know, Brad, how is this going to get into the media narrative aspect of the thumbnail? It says media narrative, Dems in chaos. Well, Dems are in chaos. I mean, if you look at their party and what was already going on before Donald Trump had an assassination attempt on him, they're in complete chaos. They were trying to ditch their number one guy, Joe Biden. They have nobody else. And all of a sudden, you've heard that kind of basically just disappear. That is just gone. No pun intended, because we got Sweet Sunset in the chat, but that is drifted off into the sunset. They're going to rally behind Joe. That's going to be the nominee now. And the next thing they need to do is figure out how the hell they're going to beat Donald Trump, and they don't know what to do. What can they do? They just, allegedly, people are saying that it was an inside job. I'm not going to say that because I don't have the proof in that yet, but, you know, they, what more can you do at this point? Okay. What more could you do? And so you have here, I want to see if I could find the actual clip. If not, we'll pull it up in a little bit. MSNBC sits there and faces Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., and brings up like this whole thing of like children being locked up and all these other things. And it's just really, it's really disgusting stuff. And I said to you guys yesterday, I said, look how these media are already treating this family. And it shows you exactly what they're going to be like. They played their hand. They played their card too early for when Trump gets elected president. This is how things are.
It's going to look like, Don? What practically your father as president, I think you would even say, was a divisive figure. What's it going to look like in the second term?
I don't think he was a divisive figure at all. I think the media created divisiveness around him. They lied about Russia collusion. They said he was a traitor. They went after him in every which way possible. If the media actually starts being an honest broker, talking about the things that he did, the prosperity he brought, the peace deals that he signed around the world, rather than the disaster that we're living right now, I think you'd do everyone in the country a big favor.
I know immigration's important to him. I covered the family separation crisis closely. Will we continue to see policies like separating 5,000 children deliberately from their parents?
You mean the Obama administration?
You know they didn't do that, sir.
Okay, sure.
Unbelievable.
Will there be a second family separation policy?
It's MSDNC, so I expect nothing less from you clowns. Even today, even 48 hours later, you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait with your lies and with your nonsense. So just get out of here.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? And he's right, 48 hours later. Thank you, Michelle, so much for becoming an American patriot. We need your guys' support, as you're seeing from the mainstream media. If Donald Trump gets elected, you guys, that's going to be our job still, is to call out the mainstream media and their hypocrisy. Oh, yeah, no, Obama didn't separate children from their families, which is basically when it was enacted under Barack Obama's administration. Barack Obama allowed illegal aliens to pour across the border. Barack Obama put illegal aliens in cages. And then when Donald Trump inherited all of this, and he's trying to figure it out, while the Democrat Party was pushing up against him in 2016, not allowing him to build a border wall, not building different facilities, not getting more DHS, not getting more Border Patrol, all this stuff, he's deemed the racist now. So basically, he inherits somebody else's racism according to the Democrat Party. He's trying to solve the solution. He's the racist and all these other things. It's really a remarkable spin the media is doing, and you're seeing it in real time. This is why I said this is the media narrative. This is why the thumbnail was as specific as it is, because this is what we're going to get back to. The problem is the media's been pretty good lately in terms of certain people in that White House press briefing room, like Jackie Heinrich, like Peter Doocy, like Ed O'Keefe, like Peter Alexander, quite frank, and even we didn't like him very much when he was sitting there in the White House press briefing room when Donald Trump was in office. We like Philip Wegman. So some of these guys are good, and my hope is they stay good when Donald Trump is hopefully elected the next president of the United States. But you are seeing a glimpse right now in terms of what things are going to look like when Donald Trump's back in office. The media is going to shift. Their narrative is going to shift. And now you're seeing the narrative go back automatically to, oh, he's the orange bad man bad. And you saw that during yesterday's White House press briefing. Really, Just really disgusting stuff coming from the media already. I mean, they didn't even give it 48 hours and they're already trying to trash the dude. Really, just unbelievable how insane these people are. So the big pick yesterday was the vice president and Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance. Ben Shapiro here and others are saying that it's a very confident pick. Look, I listened to Ben for years. I've read every single one of his books multiple times. He's somebody that I trust in terms of his opinion and his thinking. And you know what? Honestly, I trust Trump in terms of his thinking and his opinions. He picked this guy for a reason, and we got to go with it. As much as maybe I don't like it, he sees something in him that I don't. And I got to have faith in that. After lengthy deliberation and thought and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I've decided that the person best suited to assume the position of president, or rather vice president of the United States, is Senator J.D. Vance of the great state of Ohio. Now, what people are saying, and have already asked Vivek, since if Donald Trump does get elected, obviously the senator of Ohio is gone because he's going to be vice president, then who could fill those shoes? And Vivek said he would be more than happy to step in and take over as senator of Ohio, which would be dope for people in Ohio. Let me tell you, you'd be hooked up real big. Ben Shapiro says, as a friend put it, Vance is truly a F it and ride it, or we ride. I don't know what that means, but pick from Trump demonstrates real confidence and shows that he wants a bulldog. Vance is certainly that in terms of pure IQ and speaking ability. Vance is the best candidate Trump could pick. Now, I don't know if that whole quote is, I don't know if just this part is the quote itself and the rest is Ben Shapiro. And I bring that up because if the rest is Ben Shapiro, this part I like. Ben obviously has a high IQ. He won't admit it. We all know he has a high IQ. I think he's borderline, has photographic memory. So if he's saying somebody else has a high IQ, then we'll take his word for it on that one. I see you all in the chat today. We got a lot of people. So again, we're just breaking down the news. Again, the media narrative is basically Trump is terrible. Trump's a dictator. Trump is still a threat. We gave them multiple opportunities during yesterday's White House press briefing to change their tune. We gave them multiple opportunities to say, hey, will Joe Biden sit there and tone back his rhetoric? And he's not going to. We actually saw a quote from him just calling Trump a dictator. It's a remarkable thing that you're seeing is that they're willing to tell everybody else, all Americans in the Oval Office, that you guys need to change your rhetoric. You guys need to change your behavior. Really? Because it's basically Democrats that have done all the assassinations in America's history. It's basically all the Democrats that sit there that vote in more crime, more homeless, illegal immigration, allowing terrorists to pour across the border, foreign policies terrible, domestic policies terrible. I mean, it's really a funny thing, right? It's like we're to blame for Joe Biden's mistakes. Quite literally, by the way. He even blames everything on Donald Trump. If it's not Trump's fault, it's Putin's fault, it's Xi's fault. It's everybody else's fault other than Joe Biden. But then when something goes well, all of a sudden, look what I did. I created 12 million new jobs. Joe, one, you don't even know what the hell 12 million is, and you did not create 12 million new jobs, Joe. You literally just opened up the economy, and he's trying to take credit for all those things. So there was an interview yesterday with Joe Biden, and he was asked, I believe it was with Lester Holt, he was asked, have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who are not balanced? And here is what Joe Biden said.
Have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who are not balanced?
Well, I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says?
There you go.
Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I've not engaged in that rhetoric.
Wow.
Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive all the, actually, I guess, suspend the sentences of all those who were arrested and sentenced to go to jail because of what happened in the Capitol.
Have you...
Folks, at this point, it hadn't even been 48 hours yet from when Donald Trump was assassinated, and he's already using the same language. The dude hasn't changed one bit. Fucking lectured us in the Oval Office again. We need to tone down the rhetoric. It's like, dude, again, look at yourself. Look at the things you've said. I'm not saying you can't ask for other people to tone down the rhetoric, But usually if you're going to ask somebody to do something, you would probably want to look within oneself and see if you do that. Like, usually that's what you would do. But there is no single mirror in that White House. The Democrats, I'm quite confident, don't have a mirror anywhere. And it just gets worse. So he said, you called President Trump an existential threat and said it's time to put him in the bullseye. And, well, I guess that didn't happen according to Joe Biden. Remember, these are all cheap fakes, deep fakes, you guys. None of this is real. What Joe Biden, you know, he's holier than thou. He tells nothing but the truth.
You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that.
I didn't say
words
crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was, there's very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing.
You called your opponent an existential threat.
I don't know. It's like I said, I don't understand why people will vote for this guy. I understand why they wouldn't vote for Donald Trump, and I understand why they wouldn't vote for Joe Biden. I get that. But when you go out of your way to sit there and punch the ticket that says Joe Biden on it, I try to understand the thinking. I don't know what Joe Biden's going to do. I don't know what Joe Biden has been doing for you for 3.5 years. It's funny because these people come out and say, well, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. It's like, dude, he had 3.5 years to do whatever he's saying he's going to do, but he just needs more time. So he tells people the truth that JD Vance is just a clone of Donald Trump. He basically sat there and said what a lot of people needed to hear. So Joe Biden actually did a favor to Donald Trump yesterday.
He's a clone of Trump on the issues. A clone of Trump on the issues. So I don't see any difference. He's a clone of Trump.
I mean, if that's the case, then I'd be more than happy to have JD Vance in the White House with Donald Trump. So days after the assassination attempt, again, this is all the narrative, you guys. Remember, the media, the Democrat Party, they basically work hand in hand. I mean, the media lick the scum between Joe Biden's toes, and they're happy to do it. These two, DNC, MSN, DNC, everybody just kind of lumps together as one. So what you're hearing from, excuse me, Joe Biden is what you're going to hear from the media as well, which is why we showed that clip with Donald Trump Jr. and MSN, DNC, is because that's what it's going to look like. So here you have it, just days after the assassination attempt, President Trump just denied he was engaged in rhetoric that could incite violence. So here's Biden labeling anyone who opposed his radical election takeover bill as domestic enemies. Here you go. But change your rhetoric, you guys.
I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic.
Now, there's people out there that have done montages of this stuff. You know, there's people out there that have done a lot here. But, you know, you guys will all remember this one because Joe Biden got a lot of flack for it, where Trump and MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
Well, hear from the horse's mouth not once, but basically twice there. But remember, Biden's saying he has not engaged in this rhetoric. We saw the interview with Lester Holt. He said he hadn't done it. I mean, in 2020, him and Barack Obama were doing wild things and wild policies. And somehow Democrats think when 2024 is going to come around that Joe Biden's all of a sudden going to flip the script and flip the coin. It's really a crazy thing here that we're witnessing in real time, not just a media shift, but basically what Joe Biden's doing here. So Biden in 2020, when Barack asked me to be vice president, not true, After that, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. So he's still, for some reason, just engaging in these lies. Here he is.
But I didn't plan on running because in 2020, when Barack asked me to be vice president, I joined him, which is a great honor. And but after that, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. But I didn't plan on.
So what you're going to see is not just any change in rhetoric. By the way, you're not going to that's going to stay. Joe Biden, he's okay now. He's going to be sharp again. We actually called this. I said what was going to happen. It's probably going to happen a little bit quicker now because the media spotlight is on Donald Trump and the assassination attempt, and rightfully so. So now that the spotlight has reverted back onto Donald Trump and not on Joe Biden's sharp again, you guys. He's okay. He's fit to hold office. He's there. So basically everything is back to quote unquote normal. The media hate Trump. Trump's an extremist and all these other things. So it's amazing how things have just shifted completely. So he's doing all these interviews. And what's funny is he brags about defying the United States Supreme Court. Remember, the guy that always talks about, oh, we need to follow the rule of law. Donald Trump's a threat to democracy, the republic. He's a threat to our institutions. He's going to take away your rights. This is what he said about the Supreme Court.
I was able to forgive the debt for 5 million people, college debt. But the court tried to stop me, and I found a way to do it. But it's a constant struggle. I was able to.
The court tried to stop me, so I gave him the middle finger, and I just did it anyways. Remember, in terms of student loan debt forgiveness, the Supreme Court said it was an overreach of the executive branch. Why the executive branch would be trying to pay off student loan debt? No idea, especially when it wasn't even really for the military, just for average Joe people that had majors in lesbian dance theory. That is not too far off, folks. There was one story where an individual, I think it was $250,000, got his student loan debt forgiveness relieved. And he was a musician. And not even a good one. I sound like Trump now. He was a musician. Not even a good one. The guy couldn't even play the bass, couldn't play the drums, he couldn't play anything. He sat there and he just looked at you like Joe, like Sleepy Joe. But $250,000, I think he got his PhD or something like that. And then he was completely blown away when he couldn't make enough money to pay off his student loans. I mean, these are the people you're paying your student loans off for. They couldn't wrap their head around the fact that they took $250,000 out, probably with a 12% interest at least, because they have no job because they're doing a PhD. And it's in music. Nothing against music. We like music here, but it's a big gamble. And then they're blown away when they can't pay off that student loan. Just remarkable. But don't worry, Joe Biden will pay it off for you. I guess he has done something for those people, which is why they feel like the need to sit there and give him his vote. We have more interview stuff coming up here, folks. If you're having a good time, hit that like button. You're taking care of us over there. A lot of stuff between Joe Biden and Lester Holt. There is this clip here that I want to play, and I want to make sure I did it halfway into the show, so we're going to play it now. We will be flagged, so this show is actually not going to be monetized whatsoever, and that's okay. There's this clip, man, that just gets the goosebumps going. It gets you riled up in a good way, and that was Donald Trump showing up to the RNC yesterday, and we're going to play it here, and we're going to crank the sound. Donald Trump showing up to the RNC, man. It gets you going, gets you a little teary-eyed. It's for all the marbles, you guys. Here's our man, the myth, the legend, Donald Trump, showing up yesterday's RNC.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lee Greenwood.
Who's going to be the next president of the United States? Prayer works. This nation based on faith. Prayer works. Because he was sure, as Donald Trump turned his head just slightly, that the bullet missed him just enough to save his life to be the next president of the United States. We have believed for so long that God will make some changes in this country. And he's about to make a change in the current administration and send them home. everybody for being here tonight. Tonight we make the decision on what's right for America. More prosperity, less gas prices, less food prices, help for our veterans, and God bless our military wherever they are in these United States and abroad. There would be no wars.
Ladies
there wasn't
and
any when
gentlemen,
President Trump
please
was president.
welcome the next
And he's
president
gonna
of
be
the
president
United
again to fix every
States,
problem.
Donald J. Trump.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again, just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. Be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. Sing it! God bless the USA. And that is to elect Donald J. Trump as the next president of the United States. He is here tonight to show his courage, his defiance against somebody who tried to kill him. You will not take this man down. He has the courage, the strength, and he will be the next president of the United States. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea. Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th President of the United States and soon to be the 47th President of the United States, please welcome Donald J. Trump. The men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Man, if that doesn't get you teary-eyed, if that doesn't get the goosebumps going for this Tuesday morning, I don't know what will. You could watch that over and over again. Some of you write in the chat, coming to Jesus moment. Maybe. I mean, he was already a person of faith, but look, when somebody almost takes your life, I mean, there's not many people you could talk to in your life that come that close to death unless they're in like an auto accident or some sort of thing that takes place like that. And so I would imagine, yeah, this has changed him. Who would it not? You know what I mean? He's a strong guy, but that's going to create a little bit more of a softened heart for you, maybe more of a calloused heart for others. But some of you wrote, we're that close to losing that man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We were very close to losing him, and thank God that we didn't. So I wanted to make sure I got that clip in today before we ended today's show. We're not done yet, but I wanted, like I said, to make sure. Usually it takes time for some people to get in here, but somebody asked, was that Tucker Carlson? Yeah, Tucker Carlson is a speaker. Yeah, you saw Byron. We love Byron Donalds. But, let's get back to a little bit of the media narrative where you have a former top Biden staffer and current CNN contributor just said Democrats need to turn their fire on Donald Trump, folks. This is less than 48 hours after he was assassinated. Again, media narrative.
He has said many, many times, after having been questioned many times about this, that he's not stepping down and he's going to be the nominee. So at some point, Democrats have to decide that they want to try to win this election and turn their fire on Donald Trump. I think there is... I shouldn't have said turn their fire. I apologize. That was not the phrase that I meant. They need to turn their focus on Donald Trump.
Freudian slip, maybe. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt. At least she corrected herself in real time. But here's the problem again that's just always out there. It's on CNN. And CNN is known to have this type of rhetoric. The Democrat Party is known to have this type of rhetoric. This isn't anything new. When you spend 8 years plus calling this guy a racist, he's a Hitler, he's fascist, he's going to throw all of you in the streets and execute you like we heard from Joe Scarborough. That's the type of stuff that the American people hear. Remember, they don't hear the Bald Bradshaw. They don't hear Fox News. They don't hear the Daily Wire or Ben Shapiro or any of these people. They just hear CNN all day, every day. And then during the morning times, they listen to The View and they get more of this psycho rhetoric that he's a threat. He's an existential extremist that's going to destroy our republic. That's all they hear every day. Look, the Democrat Party, specifically the progressive left, is going to destroy our country. That's why I wrote an entire book on it, because I firmly do actually believe it. Do I think the Democrats are going to destroy this country? No, but they're moving further left to do it. The reason why I don't think it's the Democrat Party specifically is because I don't think the Democrat Party is in control of Joe Biden. I don't think the Democrat Party's been in control for quite a long time. That's why you get people like RFK. That's why you get Kennedy out there right now acting as a real Democrat. I mean, the difference between Kennedy and the Bidens is miles, solar systems apart from one another. That's because Joe Biden is not a Democrat right now. Joe Biden's ideology is not Democrat. Democrats believe in freedom of speech. Democrats believe in your right to bear arms. Democrats believe in a lot of similar things to Republicans. There was just nuance. There's just differences, subtle, between the two parties. Bigger government, smaller government. Higher taxes, lower taxes. It was very simple to track these two, but the Democrat Party has gone further left. Joe Biden is not appeasing to the base here, but the Democrats hate Donald Trump so much they're not willing to cross over the aisle and just vote for him. Maybe that will change after what just happened to Donald Trump on the 13th. But who the hell knows? I mean, there is wild stuff coming out from the media still. And as you just heard, fire. I shouldn't have used that word. I shouldn't have done that. This or that. So really, really crazy stuff. I want to make sure I bring some stuff up to you guys. We have Vivek here, where a reporter just asked his opinion on the anger many Americans are expressing after Saturday's tragic assassination attempt, and here's how he responded. We love Vivek here.
I want to make sure I was in Pennsylvania, so we're home. Is it turned on the TV right now? I was in shock, and my first reaction was anger too. And the reason my first reaction was anger was that the only thing more tragic than what happened on Saturday is that if we're being really honest with ourselves, all of us, it wasn't totally a shock, actually. And that is maddening. That makes me angry as a citizen of the United States of America. But the question is, how do we channel that anger? I personally believe that God did intervene.
Amen to that.
I believe that the it's my own faith, that God puts each of us here for a purpose and he has a higher plan. But even if you just look at it, even if you're not a person of faith, something extraordinary happened. For somebody to have aimed in a way that got that close and still missed from a national tragedy. And I believe it's in the wake of that, our responsibility. God gave us that chance. And I'm not saying that God, people distort this, I'm not saying God endorses a policy agenda or endorses a political candidate. But I think he stands for the same divine providence for the future of this country that guided our founding fathers, that guided Abraham Lincoln.
Man, I wish he was vice president.
160 years ago.
So good.
And I think Donald Trump in some ways is given the chance now that Abraham Lincoln, the second chance that he didn't have, to unite a country that this time didn't have to fight a civil war but avoids one.
Hell yeah.
And so the question is, do you want to tell people not to be angry about it? No, of course not. I share that anger. But how do we channel that
God, he's so good, isn't he?
frustration, the sadness, and the anger that comes with that to actually do what otherwise we may not have been able to do, but for that.
Man, he's so good. I know a lot of us want Kayleigh McEnany to come back as press secretary. Look, she has a cushy job. It was tough for her if you haven't read her book. It was tough for her to be press secretary. She had a daughter. Her husband's is part of the Florida Blue Jays or whatever it was. He's a baseball player, Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know what the hell baseball is, but it's just Vivek is such a good speaker and answering questions. He would be a phenomenal pick for a White House press secretary. I think he's too above it. So like some of you are saying, maybe even Secretary of State, working around Donald Trump's agenda. He can understand it. He can navigate it. He's a business guy himself. He's able to talk with people. Look, he needs to be in the cabinet he needs to be in the administration. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's a great take here by Dinesh D'Souza, who we love here. And actually, we don't cover enough of Dinesh here, and I don't think he gets enough play out there with other conservatives or Republicans as he should. If you haven't read any of his books, phenomenal books. God, he's such a good writer. He said, why I am skeptical and even scornful about the left's demand for all sides to tone down the political rhetoric. And I love this take by Dinesh. It's quite lengthy, but I think it's worth it because it plays into our idea of what the narrative is going to be like here.
Dictator. Let's think about the logic of all this.
Right,
if Trump is in fact a dangerous dictator who tried to overthrow democracy, who, to quote Biden, poses a grave threat to our American way of life, why wouldn't it make sense to get rid of him by any means necessary, again, to use a phrase popularized by the left? So I think that the people who are saying this have either not thought it through, which is a possibility, but the real problem is that they don't mean any of it. Let's look at it this way. If a Democratic figure were facing assassination, I'm not talking about a fake assassination. The Governor Whitmer thing was a fake. The FBI engineered that. That was not a plot that anyone came up with on their own and tried to carry out on their own. So even though that's routinely invoked, that is, let's call it made-up political violence. In fact, Whitmer was in on it from the beginning. She knew about it. She was being briefed regularly about it. She was never in any danger herself. So all of that is contrived. It's bogus. But if a prominent Democrat, in fact, were to be targeted and there was an assassination attempt, there would be no talk about toning it down. Oh, no. All the talk would be about, it's time to shut down the MAGA right. It's time to have more censorship.
Oh, he's being generous in saying this. I'll go as far to say that they would have been out in the streets burning down buildings. Oh, look what you're going to see, right? They would have been taking the streets, doing all these other things. And on top of what he's saying here.
It's time to, basically, they'd be calling for a sort of American version of the Enabling Act, which is what Hitler wanted when there was an attempt by a seditious radical to burn the German parliament or the Reichstag. Hitler was like, crack down on these people. That's what the left would be calling for, a massive crackdown on us. But since it is our guy, Trump, who was in the crosshairs, and by the way, Biden was just interviewed about this, and he was asked by Lester Holt, he said, you use this rhetoric about calling him a grave danger to democracy, and you talked about putting him in the bullseye. And this is Biden's answer. He's like, well, I didn't say crosshairs. In other words, I only said bullseye. I didn't say crosshairs. Then he goes on to say, all I meant is I wanted to have sort of like a media focus on him. Well, again, is that how an assassin would hear it?
That's a great question. Dinesh is phenomenal. His take, like I said, his books, which a lot of people get kind of cringed out when somebody correlates a politician to Hitler. But here's the thing. In Dinesh's books, from even The Big Lie and forward, he does a phenomenal job of looking into the Democrat Party and why that party within itself is so inherently corrupt. If you haven't, again, I'm pushing his books hard because I've read them multiple times. Democrat Party has done things so evil that when Hitler took certain things from the Democrat Party's playbook, that even Hitler was like, "Nah, this is too much. I can't do that. That's actually too evil." That is not an exaggeration. That's not even I guess exaggeration is the best way of phrasing that. I did not hype that up by any means. Hitler legitimately took strategies from the Democrat Party's playbook, from their time of slavery to anti-civil rights and how they treated black people, and he implemented that in his own, I guess, in his own way, in his own manner. And he looked at certain things the Democrat Party did, and even Hitler goes, "Yeah, that's too much, man. I can't do that." And it's not one of those things of like, well, you could just get your opinion from that. We have the transcripts, like the actual transcripts of what Hitler was saying. So if you haven't read Dinesh's books, man, there's some hidden gems in there that you're just not going to get in any other history books. So that's why we love Dinesh here. We love the man. He does a great thing. I see all you in the live chat. One thing I want to comment. Music, I think you misunderstood. We got Music Junkie in here. She's been a long-time supporter. We love Music Junkie here. She said that, music should still be a part. Music and stuff should be still a part, and it plays a big role in our culture. 100% agree, for good and for bad, right? A lot of the hip-hop and R&B stuff that they're talking about, raping women and shooting up people, I don't think that's good for a culture. I don't think that's good music for kids to listen to. But I understand that music can sit there and change the culture of our country, and politics is downstream of culture. What I was saying was, when somebody sits there and goes into a major and they take out all this debt, and they should know that they're not going to be able to pay back that debt based on the salary that they're going to be given as somebody that's involved in music, we shouldn't be held liable as co-signers to pay off that loan. And that goes for any major, by the way. The basic theory of personal finance is that you should never take out a student loan that's more than your first year starting salary of your job. For example, say you're going into accounting, and as an accountant, your first year salary is going to be $55,000. Well, in my totality of my education in terms of at the university system, my student loans should not exceed $55,000. That individual was a music major. Okay? Not even $55,000 they're going to be getting paid coming out of college, most likely. The dude sat there and racked up over $250,000 of student loan debt. We shouldn't be held liable for that. I understand it is important. I understand it can sit there and actually change the social fabric of our country in a good way. It can also do for bad. But we should not be held liable as co-signers to somebody else's music degree. So, and I'll even go further. Music is not as important as, say, running a business or creating software or things like that. There's no musician that's done better work than Bill Gates. There's no musician that's done better work than Steve Jobs. I know we don't want to hear that. I love music, okay? I love it. I'm not hounding it. I'm just saying there's priorities. Bill Gates done even better stuff than accountants, and I'm an accounting major. I'll take the hit on that. I don't care. But Brad, what do you think of Vivek being Treasury Secretary? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that much. That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure. Look, he can fill any role. The guy's amazing. Like, I'm a Vivek fan. I love Vivek, and you guys know it. So we have Charlie Kirk says, long accused of anti-Semitism is set for a primetime speech. He will be giving that at, I think he's going to be giving that at the RNC. If not, he's a great speaker. Make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. I want to make sure I bring you guys some more up-to-date news rather than showing you just stuff from yesterday. And music, we love you here. Don't feel like I'm beating you up. Please, that's not my heart. That's not what I'm trying to get across. Let's give you some updates on what exactly took place with the assassination itself. So the FBI interviewed the local officer who saw Trump rally gunmen but retreated. And this is what's being said. Again, this just came out 10 minutes ago. So this is breaking news. Let's see if we can slide this over for you guys right here so you can see the receipts. It says the FBI investigation into the attempted assassination of former President Trump is honing in on the response from local law enforcement. Sources tell Fox News that FBI agents are interviewing members of local law enforcement, specifically the officer who saw the shooter, but retreated away from building. Crooks opened fire literally seconds later, according to law enforcement sources. There is great frustration in law enforcement community over the actions of this officer. Butler County Sheriff said in an interview with local media that a county deputy confronted Crooks moments before the shooting, but ducked to cover when he peered over the edge of the roof, and the killer turned the gun on him. The officer had both hands on the roof to get up on the roof and made it because the shooter had turned towards the officer. So most likely this guy didn't do his job of shooting the guy. There were reports that came out yesterday, and you guys aren't going to like this. There's reports that this shooter was there for so long, up to 30 minutes before taking shots. The report was that he even had a rangefinder on him, which kind of cancels out the idea that maybe he didn't zero out his rifle. I think, and this goes with what I said, and I could still be wrong, so take it as a grain of salt. We got veterans in here. We're talking about 400 feet from the president, right? It was confirmed there's an AR-15 5.56, which is what I did my calculations on. I don't think his crosshairs were off. I think he had Trump's head right there, dead on temple crosshair, okay? Now, I said, based on my calculations, and I could be wrong, I'm probably most likely wrong, that based on that 5 mile an hour crosswind, that could move the bullet 1.5 inches, right? So it goes from his temple up here to right here, right? Trump moves his head, boom, you get the ear. I don't think the guy missed you guys. I know a lot of people are saying this. You guys, it with that type of rifle, with those types of sights, with a rangefinder, you guys, a 9-year-old could make that shot. I don't think he missed. I think he hit where he presumed Trump's head was gonna be, and the wind fucked him over. I think that's the case. I could be. I'm more than happy to be wrong. I'm not saying Trump's head didn't save his life. Trump tilting, it did. But I think the guy was spot on. That 1.5 inches of differential in wind speed had to play. Now, could 400 feet do that? Again, that's what the calculation said. I just used an online website to do it. I could very well be wrong. FBI agents were seen doing some research at the complex just yesterday and today, and witness employees being allowed back into the building. Overnight, workers removed the large American flag that hung over Trump. Federal authorities say that he did use an AR-15, so I wanted to make sure I bring the receipts for you. That was a 5.56 for sure. The FBI continues to investigate the shooting incident. Now, also, we're hearing reports that the gunman was on top of the building that basically everybody else, like local police, were using. So I take that as a grain of salt for now. But again, he allegedly, that building that he shot from, inside the building was all like police and stuff like that. That was like their base, if you want to call it that. Remarkable that that guy was able to get on a ladder, climb up there. The ladder was set up for him and all these things. And we're not supposed to bat an eye that maybe this was an inside job. We're not supposed to bat an eye that you didn't have drones in the air, or that you sat there and relieved a lot of Secret Service agents to go cover Jill Biden, you know, and then you get DHS secretary, that psycho, coming up to the podium yesterday. I mean, just how does he still have a job? Alejandro Mayorkas, the bald guy, how does he still have a job after yesterday? Does anybody else still have that question? Like, the guy can't sit there and protect the border. How do we expect this individual to sit there and take part in protecting the president of the United States by issuing more Secret Service detail, of which Donald Trump's team requested he didn't give it to them? So here's Jackie Heinrich questioning him, saying, Mr. Secretary, would the president dismiss his Secret Service director if this investigation returns finding of failures? Here's what he said to that.
Mr. Secretary, would the president dismiss his Secret Service director if this investigation returns findings of failures by that agency that could have been prevented?
I am not in a position to speculate, nor should I.
Well, you're not in the position of actually giving us the truth either, which is why you told Congress that the border was secure. Furthermore, it's questioned by Jackie Heinrich. And how is it that we are now about 48 hours out from this, just shy of that, and we still don't have any information on motive? Like, how do we not know anything, man?
How is it that we are now about 48 hours out from this, just shy of that, and we still don't have any information on a motive? Is it that the investigators are withholding any information out of sensitivity to this heightened threat environment that you mentioned, or the political events that are happening right now?
So remember something, that the assailant is deceased. He was shot and killed by the United States Secret Service. The ability to identify a motive is something that, in this situation, is a result of extensive and intensive investigation. And so it is, in fact, only 48 hours after the tragic events of Saturday. And you will recall, I think, in the very, very tragic shooting in Las Vegas quite a number of years ago, because of the fact that the assailant then was shot and killed, a motive was not identified at all.
Wow, okay, so that's important because he's already, and Jackie caught that. Here's Jackie catching that quote, like right after. So I want to make sure I play that because that's huge. Here's Jackie calling out what we just heard there of like, is there not any motive then? Like, we're not going to get an answer?
Identified at all.
Motive there, Mr. Secretary. Are you suggesting
Correct.
that we might never find one?
I'm not suggesting anything. I just cited that as an example of the difficulty in identifying a motive.
That's insane, you guys. That is wild stuff coming from him. But I shouldn't even be surprised. I don't even know how this guy has a job. And it goes to just credence that when you suck at your job and you're a part of the Democrat Party, you get, for some reason, elevated to the highest levels of office. You want me to name a few people? Sure, I will. Okay. AOC. She was a bartender and she sucked at that job and she still got elevated and she still got reelected again. Joe Biden himself, look what he did under Barack Obama. Look what he did as a senator. We'll go all the way down to Kamala Harris, ran California into the ground, sat there and called Joe Biden a racist on the campaign trail, and now she's standing behind the racist. Interesting. I don't think Joe Biden's racist, by the way. I want to be clear on that. I do not think Joe Biden's racist. I'm reiterating what she said and other Democrats have said about the guy. Furthermore, you have Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom wants to be trotted out as president. Look what he's done to California. The guy lost $100 billion with a B dollar surplus in this state. You will probably never see that from anybody else in your lifetime. He lost. I know. It sounds so outlandish. Gavin Newsom, Democrat Party, the Ken doll, the dude that's a psycho. He is a psycho. Why? Because he shut down all the businesses and we couldn't even go out to eat with our families, but he got to go eat with his friends at the French Laundry. You guys remember that one? Yeah, this guy lost $100 billion surplus in this state. Yeah. Okay. Just want to be clear on that. And they want to put him as president. Yeah. So if he can't run a locality, a state, what on God's green earth do you think he could do to this country if he was elected president? People are all for it. They don't think, man. You get the highest taxes in California, the dude blows it. Worst roads in California, dude blows it. Most homeless in the entire country. We have over 25% of the homeless population in the entire United States in LA County. Not even in the state. We have over a quarter of the homeless population in one county, his county, Los Angeles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was Alejandro Mayorkas. And then Jackie goes and gets, onto Karine Jean-Pierre, where she said, are we going to continue to hear presidents in official events or campaign trail use the phrase threat to democracy? And she won't answer it.
I guess more simply, are we going to continue to hear the president in official events or on the campaign trail use the phrase threat to democracy specifically?
I want to be very clear. The president's always going to denounce violence, forcefully denounce it. He's always been against this throughout his career, throughout the last 4 years. We do not want to politicize this. It's unacceptable to do that. That's what the president has said. It is time to bring this country together, to bring American people together. That's what he wants to see. And so that's where I'm going to leave it. He wants to unite this country. And that is something that he's been saying since 2019.
So what have I found out about all this? Doing research, right? Prepping for the show yesterday, listening to different interviews, seeing how MSNBC treated Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. The media narrative is shifting faster than I thought it would. I thought it was going to shift slower, but I think based on the events, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, it gave them the freedom to sit there and revert back to their disgusting old selves. You're seeing that they're going to lecture all of us that we need to change our tune. We need to tone down the rhetoric, but they're not going to do it. Where was this language from the Democrats when Black Lives Matter and Antifa were burning down our cities? Where was all that language? Or doing these smash and grabs? Where was the language then? Or sitting there accusing all these officers of police brutality when no data even showed that was even taking place in terms of it being an epidemic or a massive problem, right? There was a survey done through Skeptic that asked people, both conservatives and Democrats, how many people they thought the police were hunting black men in the streets. And people are saying like 10,000. We talked about it in the book, 5,000, some crazy number. And it was like 19. The answer was like 19. And by the way, some of those 19 were actively trying to kill the officer, meaning reaching for the gun, grabbing for the taser, or taking the vehicle and trying to run the police officer over. So just because somebody's unarmed doesn't mean they're actually unarmed. But I know that's tough for some of these Democrats to wrap, through their thick skull. But I think the media is shifting back to what we saw. I think they're shifting back because they realize there's no hope for Joe Biden. That doesn't mean don't show up to the polls. We got to show up to the polls. This whole red wave thing, it's still close based on what the polling shows. Not to say polling like 5 times like Kamala Harris, the word salad, but it's still razor thin margins. I don't believe polls whatsoever. They can be manipulated in any way, shape, or form based on the questioning. There's a lot of biases that seep in that you can't remove. The media narrative is not going to change, you guys, based on what we've seen from 2016 as well as 2020. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for foolery taking place. They're not willing to sit there and update their voter registration rolls. We saw that from Nevada. We've seen it from Michigan, and we've seen it from Pennsylvania. They're not willing to do it, meaning dead people are going to vote again. Illegal immigrants are also registering to vote. We saw that from California to Texas to Arizona and to other states. They're doing it. They're not willing to change it. Senate's not going to pass the SAVE Act. A lot of you are like, oh, let's hope that the SAVE Act goes in. The only reason the SAVE Act really passed in the House was because 5 Democrats came over. It really, you give or take some stuff, right? But to get that in the Senate, you're going to have some Democrats vote for it as well. They're not willing to do it, especially after just seeing that Donald Trump's still standing on his own 2 feet. Yeah, I know, that ain't going to happen. Let's go to some of your chats here really quick. The faster she blinks, the more she lies. That's absolutely correct, Nola. Whitmore, us trying hard to turn... it's really tiny. Sorry, something in California. I think it's Michigan, or it's really hard to see. Sorry, guys. It's really tiny chat. Lily B says, yeah, I just don't like how much YouTube takes. Yeah. I'm assuming that's for contributions or donations. Absolutely, yeah. If you do make one, there isn't, to be quite honest, I haven't even talked about it. On the website, there's a donation tab on baldbrad.com if you guys weren't aware. If you really want to, it's up there at the top right. If you click that donation tab up here, it will take you to your donation supports the show. And then it will take you, hopefully, let me take that off. I don't know if it's going to show you. And then you just do it there. So that's one way of doing donations if you wanted to, through my website. I just don't ever talk about it. To be honest, I kind of don't even like talking about donations on the actual channel itself because it feels kind of like panhandling. Does that make sense? And I don't like that. I call it because a lot of people send emails. It's just easier rather than writing 15, 20 emails, right? Oh, you could do this, you could do that. It's just easier just to broadcast it to everybody all at once. And for those that want to, they can. For those that don't want to, then they don't have to. You know what I mean? You just watch it hanging out. That's what this is all about. Yeah, YouTube takes about 30. Yeah, it is 30%. That is correct. It's not 35. It's 30. I can tell you right up front. Yeah, no problem, Lily. Thank you for just supporting you guys. It's really generous of you guys, really. I have the best. I know every YouTube person says this, right? Oh, we have the best audience, but we do. Look, I love Dan. I love Steven. I love Ben Shapiro, but I don't see them calling out people in the chat. I don't see them knowing their people's names. I'm just saying, like I said, music's been a long time, right? Viewer, she watches Spooky Adventures. She's in there, right? Same thing with Neil. I know shit. I just don't see other people take the time to actually know their viewers' names. And when they crossed over like Sunset, right? I automatically saw that she was Gigi. So she goes, oh, I'm Sunset. So now I know that's Sunset over there. So we take the time here to know because you guys take the time to sit there and write in the chat. You take the time to comment. You guys donate. You do all these things. You take the time to watch the show and hang out. So I think you deserve a little bit of love back because you guys show me a lot of love. With that being said, folks, we're going to keep it to our normal timing today. I don't know what time I'm going to be live today. I think I'm going to go live a little bit later. I wish I was live later in the evening yesterday to watch the speeches, but I passed out. Yo, my nap yesterday was like 4 hours long. I felt like Joe hooked up on a CPAP machine. I don't have a CPAP, but damn, I was out. But I'm gonna take my mom to lunch today. And I have a doctor's appointment. So other than that, that's my agenda. So I'll probably be live a little bit later today. Hopefully catch some speeches and hang out with all your fine folks. Thank you so much for always joining me here on the Bald Brad Show. We will be back obviously tomorrow 7 a.m. for all the updates and see what the heck happens today. Hopefully nothing but good things. So with that being said, folks, I'll see you next time here on the Bald Brad Show.